Well, we're back. 5 questions with LeRoy Butler.
Still undefeated.
Last week I was yawning because they were 6-0. What should I do this week?
Fall asleep.
Yeah. Like keel over.
It'll get better, trust me.
Well, it's interesting. One of the things that you can really talk about the 7-0, and I wrote about it on Monday, was this hasn't been the easiest 7-0, and they definitely haven't been the most dominant 7-0 team, have they?
Right. I think a lot of the people I'm getting, because I'm bragging nationally, well, Butler, you guys haven't played anybody. And I get that. But for the most part, this team is not playing on all cylinders, and they're finding ways to win. And we'll break all that down later. But for the most part, they don't panic, Tom. They're battle tested. They're down 14-7, so eventually we're going to win. I mean, they turned the ball over on special teams, Randall Cobb, and for the most part, gave up a couple of touchdowns, but they got a couple of interceptions. And it's just kind of one of these things that when I say they're battle tested, they don't panic when they're behind. And that's a tribute to Mike McCarthy, the way his mentality of his team.
What happens if Aaron Rodgers has a bad game? Is that when they're going to lose?
I don't know. And here's the thing about Aaron Rodgers. Here's his bad game. It'd be 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, maybe 1 for a touchdown, and his rating will be like 89. Most quarterbacks in the National Football League, they'll love that. But I can never vision him being like that. He's doing something the first 7 games no quarterback's ever done. I mean, there's nothing to refer to. I mean, can you look at Kurt Warner's record? Can you look at Steve Young's record? I mean, no, none of these guys have done this for a 7-game stretch.
Maybe Brady in that year he threw for 50 touchdowns. Yeah, he was unstoppable that year.
Yeah,
he threw like 4 interceptions the whole year.
But he's, to me, I'm a nitpicker a little bit there. Brady's a target. He can't move out of the pocket. If his guys are covered, he's sacked. Rodgers gives you a chance. He can move around on the run. He's very good. But I just can't see him having a terrible game that will cost the Green Bay Packers. Now, I will say this. If he does have a pedestrian or a bad game, I got to feel with this talent, it'll be their time to rise up. Because he's been carrying the defense right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're a fantasy owner, you start your guys against the Packers. Because they've been giving up a lot of passing yards, 175 yards on the ground.
One aspect that I think is kind of has led to their success offensively is the relationship between McCarthy and Rodgers. It seems like McCarthy is giving him, more and more reign with checking at the line of scrimmage, deciding what to do, playing to his strengths. They seem to have a pretty good on-field relationship.
Why you threw on-field?
Well, because I think McCarthy is continually conscious of not letting Rodgers' head get too big. I think McCarthy knows how to knock you down just enough so that you don't think, so that you think that you have to keep getting better.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about that with Aaron. I think Aaron understands. If you look at his pedigree, I mean, not getting looked at by the big colleges, going to junior college, supposed to be the #1 pick, wasn't. Go to California and fight through the Tedford quarterbacks at California, not very good. This guy has gone through a lot, and to go through the Brett Favre saga. All of that makes him the complete player because he uses that as fuel to the fire. Now, I will say this. Now, and people got to understand who Aaron really is, okay? After the game, he said, hey, look, I wasn't crazy about the idea of running the ball 6 times, but we did a good job at it. I think a lot of people took that as that him rebelling and want to throw the ball. Hey, maybe he does. But for the most part, McCarthy has given him the keys to the franchise. You give him those keys and you never take them back.
Right.
Have a great relationship. Don't let the egos of being a head coach and a star player, bring the team down. I don't see that happening.
But I see him giving him the keys, but it's like that commercial where that guy is, the little girl sitting in the driver's seat.
Right.
And he giving her the keys, but he's telling her,
be careful.
Do this.
Do that. Don't, come on now.
Right. Don't talk,
know
call me,
do.
but don't, not while you're driving.
Right.
You
And see, here's the thing. You've told me in my development as a quarterback, if I get an 8-man front, possibly 9-man front,
right.
I can audible out of it to my matchup.
Right.
And that's what Rodgers really wanted to do. But he said, look, I'm a team guy. I'll just run the ball. If you need me, I'll be there.
Right.
Now, I do agree with Rodgers. And a couple of times I thought they were going to throw the ball just in the game because you had a great matchup outside with a backup corner on 85 Jennings, who's playing at an unbelievable pace right now. 7 catches, over 140 yards. So I'm just excited because their relationship, Tom, I'm glad you brought it up, it is very important. If you take all the top quarterbacks, they have to be on the same page with their coordinator, their quarterback's coach, and their head coach. Brady and Belichick, I mean, they go together.
Right.
So it has to work. And even we'll see Phillip Rivers a couple weeks. Him and North Turner, they got to keep this relationship better for him to grow as a quarterback.
Definitely. Okay, well, we're going to talk about the defense at some point. There's a lot to talk about with the defense, but I want to first kind of examine Charles Woodson. Now, here's a guy, he comes up with 2 huge interceptions in that game, and he's done that all through the year. On the other hand, you know, he gets beat for a touchdown, he missed some tackles. His game is not flawless, you know. He's sort of in a position where he can make enough plays that he's still a really good player, but he can also give up some stuff. What's the trade-off there, and is that just something, is it almost like Favre where you know he's going to throw some interceptions, but you like his big plays?
He's the stock market because it's risk reward. One day you're up 400 points, next day you're down 400. And I'm okay with that. But for the long term, if I leave the money there, I'm going to make money.
Right.
So with Woodson, he's money. So if he misses a tackle, we'll live with that because sooner or later, he's our playmaker. He's our Hall of Famer, a living Hall of Famer that's playing. And the coaches, to some degree, are okay with it. Now, don't get me wrong. They do coach him up. But, you know, he was able to practice. He's starting to get fresh. And I agree with him. He should have had 4 interceptions. You know, one time he had a clear-cut interception, and he was interfered with by the wide receiver and didn't get a flag. But that's his mentality. I have to get these turnovers for us to win the game.
So you take the good with the bad.
Absolutely, all day long. Only with him, though. You can't do it with the whole secondary. You can't do it with Tramon Williams.
Which
you can't do it with
kind
Morgan
of
Burnett.
saw on the first play of the game.
Right.
Now, if you're going to gamble, you better win, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things you don't double down on 12. You only do it on 10 and 11.
Right.
And you got to understand something. If you're Tramon Williams, and just like he said, I understand. I played defensive back before. You got a young quarterback, first play of the game. You figure, hey, look, I'm going to take a shot.
Right.
You're hoping, you got to let your safety know I'm going to take this shot so that he can, you know, Pepper can get over and help you maybe, you know, stop a touchdown or a long pass.
Right.
Now, Pepper took a couple false steps, and I think that put him out of position, but ultimately it was up to Tramon to make these plays.
Right. Okay, and we have a Twitter question from one of our viewers, and this is something we could talk about all day because I think it's a huge issue. And the Twitter question is, you know, the Packers defense has been, it comes from 10K Hours, and I think it's, you know, the Packers defense has been like Swiss cheese. And, you know, what's the difference from last year? And he also asks, is, you know, missing Colin Jenkins the key? Well, let's just talk about the defense in general first. They're giving up a lot of yards. Not so many points, but a lot of yards, and they're definitely not as tight as they were. What's going on?
Well, first of all, obviously Nick Collins not being there, and then you don't have the continuity of the defense over the last couple of weeks to sustain a lot of practices together. Now, Charlie Pepper will be going into his 3rd or 4th week practicing with the guys. They're going to get better with that. But the things I am concerned about, the tackling is an issue, and going after the quarterback. Tom, and I'm going to tell you something. They blitzed, but they still weren't able to get there. You have to win your one-on-ones. Remember, B.J. Rodgers, the last 6 or 7 weeks last year, dominated one-on-ones.
Right.
but they're just not getting there. You can't just rely on Matthews.
Well, that brings up the point of Cullen Jenkins.
Right.
Are they missing him?
Well, Neal is supposed to fill that role, but he's not there.
Right.
So
we don't know exactly when he's coming back.
You can't really count on him until he's there. So with that being said, you got to play other guys. I mean, I think Brad Jones got a chance to play instead of Soto. 97, they may have to rotate him in there.
Maybe
fresh
they need
bodies.
to, yeah.
They're going to have to try everybody this second half of the season, because I'm going to tell you something. You're going to start to get these offenses are very optimistic. The Giants, you're going to get Minnesota again that's going to run the ball, and you're going to get Phillip Rivers. So you got to get after the quarterback. Without getting after the quarterback, you can see, Christian Pond had a very efficient day. Now, I will say this. He only completed 13 passes, for 219 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
so. And he was only at a rating of 59.
Okay. Well, we'll also talk about some of the things that teams are doing to the Packers defense in our X's and O's section. So be sure you stay with us for X's and O's. And
this was sponsored by SyndixMarket.com. And Syndix was just announced this morning, breaking news, they were the Philanthropist of the Year for the LeRoy Butler Foundation. So we're very excited. They've given thousands of dollars to other charities as well. So thank you to the Ballester family for doing that. And plus W.J. Kuhn in Oak Creek. If you need your car fixed or you're going on a long trip, go talk to Scotty Brooks. He'll hook you up. W.J. Kuhn in Oak Creek.
All right. And we'll see you next week.